to Desk Geek. What you see before you is a toy I've been wanting for a long time, and I actually got this around Christmas time, but I've taken a long time to do this video because I didn't want to just do another Phantom standard video. This is a very expensive, at least in my book, toy, and I wanted to get a feel for this toy because, to be honest with you, I was completely freaked out by having $500 flying in the air, flying over water, flying around trees. It's just kind of an odd thing for me. Generally, when I spend $500, it sits in a nice case inside my house. It's a new motherboard and processor or something that I can keep relatively safe. This is going up in the air hundreds of feet, flying over water, everything else. It's just crazy, and there are a lot of videos out there that can scare you. Before I ended up purchasing one, I was doing lots of research, and people were talking about fly-offs where your drone just randomly goes off in any direction and is gone forever, and all kinds of things. And I wanted to tie a string to it and make it like a kite because I was so scared I was going to have a fly-off. And after weeks and weeks of playing with this thing, I think there's some simple things that you can avoid to keep that from ever happening. And also I want to give you some tips as a new user. If you're like me, $500 is nothing to you and you're like, who cares, my drone's $2,000. Well, fine, then this probably isn't for you. But for most of us, $500 is quite an investment for a toy like this. And it's an amazing toy, and it's a fantastic hobby, and believe me, you're going to get addicted quick to it. But it's still a toy at the end of the day. And I would like to do some footage and things with this for my channel, but at the moment I'm still learning this device and figuring out all the things that it can do before I fully trust it to get some interesting shots. But you'll see some video that I have taken with this out in a field, and it's absolutely gorgeous. The video quality is gorgeous. The ability to control this device is incredible. And DJI, although I've heard there's some customer service issues here and there just based on reading some forums, and I've not had to deal with their customer service yet, but at least as far as their drones and the quality and everything, I have to give it to them. It's quite amazing. But what is my experience with drones? Well, before this, the only thing I really had was like a $150 knockoff drone that was non-GPS oriented. I don't even know who made it, but it was so incredibly difficult to fly, and that probably added a lot of fear for getting a drone like this. Now, this has a lot of different features, but one of the most important ones that you look for when you purchase a drone, because you'll see them everywhere from $20 to $5,000, one of the most important things for me, I've learned, is making sure you have GPS lock. And what that does is if the drone has a good GPS system, it allows it so that when you're not moving the controls around, you're not moving left, right, up, or down, that it's staying still where you set it. So you don't have to touch the controller. It's just going to sit there and hover. And that's an incredible feature, because if you have a drone without that, any wind gusts at all, slight wind gusts in any direction, or if you move the controller the wrong way too much, you're just going to end up crashing into a house, tree, car, power line, etc. With this, that's a little more complex to actually accomplish because it is very easy to control. But one of the first tips I'll give you is test this unit without the blades. So this is the remote control here, and it's just got a simple power switch. You've got some toggles here. You can just, this is really a return home toggle on the left side, the S2. So if you toggle that a couple times, it's going to go into return home mode. You can see it's beeping there, and I'm in beginner mode. I've got the app running, and then over here you can switch into different modes for your flights, and you've got your sticks here, your antenna, your phone clip to hold your phone, and this, as you can see, moves the camera up and down just by simply moving that control. And that's basically it. That's the extent of this device. So now it's saying that it's landing, but this is one of the tips I wanted to show you. You can see I'm doing this. I'm going to go ahead and start it up without any blades on. And this allows you to kind of get an idea of the amount of power that this unit has. So if I just touch the control a little bit, how fast it speeds up. If I control a lot, how fast, how it handles the turning and movements there, and it just kind of give you an idea for starting this thing up, understanding the apps, the information inside the apps. And I'll show you here, one of the most important things you can do is make sure you're on the latest firmware. For the standard, I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. And one way to do that is just to hold down on the down button and for 3 seconds until it turns off. But you can see here this has the latest firmware, and that's very important, and that will protect you from fly-offs and things like that, as well as make sure you've got their latest and greatest updates. The other thing here is the calibrate the compass option. So each time you're about to fly into a new area, make sure you're calibrating that compass. It's a simple instruction of just turn it upright in a circle and then just turn it this way against your body in a circle, and that will calibrate the compass and make sure that it can fly correctly. Additionally, at the top screen, if you leave this in beginner mode, you'll see at the top it says ready to go there once that focus is in, and you also see the amount of satellites right there that this has connection to, and those satellites are what keep the positioning of this accurate. So if it tells you it's not safe to fly, my recommendation, unless you're a pro, don't fly it. Go find another area where you don't have interruption or you've got satellites that can pick up. This is also not really meant to fly indoors, but like I said, one of my tips is take the blades off, play with it, start it, make sure your firmware is up to date, kind of get a feel for how this unit works. Some of my other tips that I have: leave this in beginner mode, keep this unit well charged at all times. So when you're not using it, put the battery on the charger. It will auto shut off once it's fully charged. Make sure your remote control's charged, and also, very important, make sure your phone is charged. And once it has a lock, it'll tell you at the very beginning that it's found that home point, and that's a very important piece. You want a home point that's clear and open, that you can land it safely, because it has a lot of auto return features, such as if your battery gets to a point and you can set, but automatically, I think it's about 30%, it will fly itself home to you automatically so that it doesn't end up dead. It will climb to a certain altitude, and you want to make sure that's much higher than the trees and things that are around in that area. But there's lots of safety features, but it needs good GPS positioning, latest firmware there, and make sure you start it at a point that has a large clearing, because it's not exact, the home point place where it lands. It's pretty close, but not exact, and depends on how strong the GPS signaling is there. I like to do a catch landing with this unit. So instead of trying to land it on the ground myself, when I'm done, I will just let it hover there in the air, bring it down to about my height, and reach my arm out safely, grab it, then hold the trigger down here on the left side until it cuts off, just like we did a second ago, and then put it in this case and take it away. And that's just a safety thing for me, because I'm not a fantastic pilot, and I don't want to accidentally crash it into the ground too hard and break something, and it means no impact at all happens to the Phantom when you do it that way, and that's why I prefer, because I'm just not a great pilot and not comfortable enough with that. The first flights, I think, are very critical, and one of the things that I did is I spent a lot of time on my first flights focusing, staying in a very low height in a very safe and open area, so I wasn't trying to fly it around complex areas where there's lots of things that it could possibly run into, and I kept the speed low, and I just got a feel for the controls and how it works and how it moves, and then the stopping speed. Because you got to remember, this isn't anti-lock brakes here that are going to lock you. This thing slides a little bit when you stop. So if you're moving real fast and you're moving forward and you let off on the lever, it's going to take it some time to actually come to a rest. And a lot of people end up with their drone in trees because they don't account for that. They're moving real fast, maybe kind of simulating a race or something, and then they think they're stopping in time, but it still has some more movement to it and runs smack into a tree. And once those blades get caught up on a tree or things, it's pretty much that Phantom's going to be in the $500 tumbling down towards the earth. Make sure you know that this is an auto shut off here when you hold this down. So you can see that knob actually locks. So you don't want to be pushing down hard on that when you're trying to lower it down slowly. Otherwise you're going to go in that lock position, and within a couple seconds it's going to automatically shut off those blades, and your Phantom drone's going to go tumbling towards the earth. I would definitely recommend your flights for a long time. Don't fly over bodies of water, areas that have thick groups of trees, until you know your device. And other than that, it is such a blast to play with this thing. They've done such a great job. Again, this is one of my first expensive drones, but everything you could possibly want in a professional toy and really feel like you're getting your money's worth. I think the Phantom drone, the standard edition, certainly does that. It's a great beginner's version. There are other drones, and a lot of the step-ups, as I understand, have to do with the cameras, the camera mounts, and also the amount of GPS signaling capabilities that it has, or antennas within it. On some of the more advanced ones, I believe this just has one GPS antenna in it. Again, I could be wrong about that. I'm not an expert, but that's kind of some of the differences that I've seen as you get into the more fancy drones, of course, flight speed and things like that. The other thing I love about Phantom software is if you keep it in beginner mode, it will only allow you to go so high and only allow the drone to go so far away from you before it automatically will kick into either return home mode, or it'll give you a warning and just stop climbing in height or going further away from you. And that just gives you a great opportunity to really test out this device without being too dangerous. It's very solid. A lot of people look into parachutes and things. I know I did, because again, $500 flying in the air. But those parachutes and items like that, I ended up getting one that my wife got me for a present, and it was so expensive we ended up returning it, because honestly it was $300 or $400 for the parachute system by the time you buy the release kit and the parachute itself and everything else. And it's like, well, if you lost your drone, you could just buy a brand new one for the price of these parachute kits. But I assume those are more meant for higher end Phantoms. You know, when people are spending $1,000 or more, that might make more sense. But again, haven't seen a reason to invest in things like that. It's a very solid device. I've had a ton of fun with it. Now I'm going to show you some footage that I shot. I think you're going to be really impressed with the clarity and beauty of this thing. It's tons of fun. I'm even thinking of making some intros or doing something with it, because I live in the mountains and really get some beautiful shots out there. Anyways, leave your comments below. Let me know what drones you've checked out, if you love DJI or one of the other drone makers out there. These are very popular toys. Love to answer any of your questions or get information from you if you know more about this drone or have some tips or safety information. I always love hearing from you, the community. So leave it down below in the comments. And until next time, get out there and fill your brains.
not like the video.